Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing great out there tonight. Had yourselves a wonderful day, and I hope everyone's been having a great weekend out there as it's coming to an end, wrapping up, and we're about to head off into our work week. Now, it's going to be a very active start to our week. It's been active this weekend, and it was an active into last week, and it's just going to continue to be pretty active out there in regards to severe weather chances. So in this video, we're just going to focus in on tomorrow's severe weather threat. There's severe weather ongoing right now. I know a lot of people are probably just tuned into the people going live, or either whether they're storm chasers or giving you guys a live feed. I can always tell the evening of an ongoing severe weather threat, even though we're talking about the next day, the views are always way down, and it's probably because people are just obviously wanting to know what's going on right this second, especially if you live in these impact severe weather areas. And so I certainly understand it, but I just want to continue to feed you guys information like we always do here on this channel. So we're going to get very detailed like we've been doing. We'll talk about the latest from the Storm Prediction Center. I do think we'll get a change with this as we wake up tomorrow morning, but we'll talk about what we do know. Then we'll give you a state-by-state breakdown. We'll even talk a little bit about Tennessee and Georgia and South Carolina. I think there will be a sneaky severe weather threat there. It's not really sneaky anymore because we actually had an upgrade to a slight risk in these areas. But I will zoom in to say, Tennessee and South Carolina, Georgia too. So definitely utilize those timestamps. If you just want to hear about a certain state, there'll be a timestamp up for it. So definitely take advantage of those. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. I am very behind on comments. I'll get caught up with everything tomorrow afternoon. And, I always hate when I get too far behind because I miss those prayer requests and the questions and stuff like that. But I promise you I'll get caught up with everything tomorrow afternoon. So let's get rocking and rolling. So this is the latest from the Storm Prediction Center for tomorrow's severe weather threat. A very large enhanced risk, which covers about 4 or 5 states here. Well, maybe 6 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6 states, at least sections of those states. Nebraska, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and portions of northern Texas. A slight risk, level 2 out of 5 around that in the yellow, and a marginal risk around that. But there is a bimodal slight risk, one surrounding around the enhanced risk area. And then there's one right here that's new. From the last update earlier this afternoon, includes areas of Tennessee, northern Georgia, southwest North Carolina into the upstate of South Carolina. This is for some damaging winds and hail, but I do think we could have a tornado risk in this area too. So here's a broad look at it. Let's talk about the northern mode, then the southern mode. So like I said, enhanced risk, Kansas City, Topeka, Hutchinson, Wichita, Joplin, Springfield, Columbia, Missouri, up to St. Joseph, north of Kansas City. Enhanced risk, slight risk, goes all the way up into Omaha, Lincoln, Des Moines, back over to St. Louis, Poplar Bluff, all the way back west in the Hayes, Great Bend, and those places. That's a level 2 out of 5. Marginal, dark green, level 1 out of 5 that surrounds that. Now, what's driving this is the tornado threat as of right now. If you live in that yellow area, that is a 10% risk of a strong EF2 or higher tornado within 25 miles in any given location. Kansas City, you're right in the middle of this. In the brown, that is a 5% risk of a tornado. This goes all the way up to Sioux City, all the way back over to Des Moines, St. Louis, back over to Great Bend. Let me slow down a little bit. Pratt, and up to Lincoln. So, yes, I know the 10% does extend all the way into Oklahoma and Arkansas. I'm going to cover the southern mode of this here in a second. But yellow area, 10% risk of a strong EF2 or higher tornado. The wind threat is what's driving this enhanced risk also. If you live in that red area, that is a 30% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles in a given location. And the hail threat, there is a risk of significant sized hail. The red area is a 30% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch, and then the yellow is a 15% risk of that, and then the black outline region with the black dashes going in between it, that is a 10% risk of significant size hail, 2 inch in diameter or larger. Includes pretty much all the areas I've already said, Omaha down to Kansas City, includes a large area. These storms will have an atmosphere that's going to be working with, that's going to support large to gigantic hail in these areas. So now let's talk about the southern mode of this. The enhanced risk does include central, eastern Oklahoma into the entire northwestern half of Arkansas. And then it goes all the way down to the Dallas-Fort Worth area and includes the northern counties of northeast Texas. Slight risk goes around it, level 2 out of 5 in the yellow. What's driving this? The tornado threat in the yellow, that is a 10% risk of a strong tornado within 25 miles in a given location. Dallas-Fort Worth, you're just south of this, but this could extend further south. But Fayetteville, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, McAllister, Fort Smith, Ardmore, you guys are included in this. The 5% risk of a tornado area is in the brown. That goes all the way back over to Little Rock, Texarkana, down to Waco, Dallas-Fort Worth area. So the wind threat, in the red, that is a 30% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. The yellow is a 15% risk of that. And then the hail outlook, the red is a 30% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. The yellow is a 15% risk of that. And if you live in that black outlined area, black dash is going in between, that is a 10% risk of significant size hail, 2 inch in diameter or a larger. So I do want to include this segment here. There is now a slight risk that basically goes from Nashville down to Athens, Georgia, and includes like all the way down to Greenville and stops just west of Columbia, South Carolina, which if you don't know, that's where I live. But this, basically what's driving this is just a complex of storms that's going to drift through this area. And I think this could be pretty intense tomorrow afternoon, kind of a sneaky area to watch that a lot of people won't be paying attention to because of what's obviously happening to the west. But basically in that slight risk, that's where we have a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in size or larger and a 15% risk of damaging winds occurring of 55 to 60 miles per hour. Right now, not even a 2% risk of a tornado, but I could see that changing. So let's give a state-by-state breakdown of this. And we're going to talk about Texas first. Really only going to include Northeast Texas here because I think this will be where if any weather happens tomorrow that's going to be significant, it's going to be in this area. But we're going to start all these little panels off around 8 a.m., depending on your time zone, though. So we take it to about mid-morning. We take it to about lunchtime, just some scattered downpours, not a whole lot. We take it to about mid-afternoon, some storms trying to fire up near Paris, sneaking into Oklahoma, southeast Oklahoma. And then we get about 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Most of the storms hanging out northeast of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But you see how it has that kidney bean look here? You see how they're hooking? That's a sign of a rotating thunderstorm, a supercell, which is what that is. So we got to watch out, and then boom, 6 p.m., more storms begin to fire. And I've been saying this over and over again. I just want to reiterate it again, over and over again. Listen, this is just simulated model, guys. It's not exactly what's going to happen. We don't know that until it does, but it's given us our best guess on where these storms could form. And we start to take it to about 7 p.m., 8 p.m., big storm just north of Sherman, Texas. And by the time we get to late at night, I mean, nothing's going on. So, for example, in this particular run, Dallas-Fort Worth area doesn't even get a drop of rain. It's going to be very conditional in this area tomorrow, meaning it's going to be very isolated, pretty much is what that means. Not everybody's going to see storms. So, now we take it up to Oklahoma, starting off around 8 a.m. Could already have some storms kind of around in central and eastern Oklahoma. We get to about 11 a.m. We get to about lunchtime, 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and then you see all these storms forming in far eastern Oklahoma. Tulsa points east. Look at these nasty cells here in McAllister. They form pretty early to mid-afternoon here, and then they quickly drift into Arkansas. And these could be quite intense, guys, in the far eastern counties. Now, we're not done yet. 5 p.m., additional convection forms back towards, Stillwater. And then, boom, here's another frame, 6 p.m., That is a very intense thunderstorm up here, but there might be more storms to the south. We just got to figure this out. And then we get 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Tornado-producing thunderstorms will be on the table for the eastern half of Oklahoma. These could very well form west of Oklahoma City. On this particular model run, they do not. But you see these splotches of purple and white. I mean, storms could produce gigantic hail for tomorrow, large hail, damaging winds, tornadoes. And we start to get into 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and midnight. And after we get past midnight, I do think things begin to calm down for the state of Oklahoma. Now, we look at Arkansas. We'll start off around 8 a.m. We'll have to watch for some energy that gets into the state about early afternoon. We could have some stormy conditions in western and central Arkansas. These could produce all hazards, but I really think it's what forms a little bit later in the afternoon. For example, this is 5 p.m., all hazards type storms and down to Mena up to Fort Smith, Fayetteville. We get to 6 p.m., 7 p.m. It'll be interesting to see what happens in Arkansas. We get to about 8 p.m. and we just have a big blob of storm activity for the entire northwestern half of Arkansas. But if you notice, you see these circle lines coming off this, some of these cells. This is where we have more intense, potentially rotating updraft storms that could produce tornadoes. And it's going to be a whole lot of rain. We could get a flash flooding scenario up here with storms just going over the same area. So Russellville, Fort Smith, up to the Ozarks, Jonesboro, be careful with these. And on the southern areas of these storms, like I'm going to draw here a little bit for you folks, like in these areas right in here, there'll be a lot of warm, moist air feeding into the bottom southern fringe of these storms. And I do think we could have a tornado threat wherever this kind of congealed line of storms sets up here. But this is around 9 p.m., 10 p.m. They're just kind of hanging out around the same areas. Take forever to take more of a west to east progression. But man, I'm telling you, somewhere in this area of Arkansas could get hit hard tomorrow. You know, like up here in this region, this area could get hit pretty hard tomorrow, and it's going to be a sloppy mess. I do not think these tornadoes will be very, quote-unquote, photogenic. I think they're going to be messy. I think they're going to be rain-wrapped, which makes them even more dangerous. And then as we start to get late tomorrow night into the wee hours of the morning, this finally starts to head off into Tennessee. But Kansas for tomorrow, it's getting very active right now, but we take it to about midday. Some storms begin to form in eastern Kansas. Could be strong to intense, and then we get to about 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m. We kind of have some storms trying to form in western Kansas, but I do think they'll be lacking some ingredients, but without to watch them. Manhattan, some storms firing. We could have storms firing in this entire area right in here. Even though it doesn't look very widespread in this region, we could have widespread all hazards type thunderstorms. And then we start to move into 7 p.m., might be more of a kind of congealed linear type deal up here because there's so much forcing with the surface low. But 7 p.m., intense thunderstorms throughout eastern Kansas. This is 7 p.m., this is 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Big storms starting moving to Kansas City with just some kind of rounds of heavy rain, maybe embedded thunderstorms around Dodge City and around that area. And then we start to get into after midnight tonight, we could have, not tonight, but tomorrow night, we could have some strong to severe storms that kind of move back into a more favorable environment. So we might get more storms on Wichita points east as we start to get into Tuesday morning. So that's Kansas. Here is Missouri starting off tomorrow morning. We take it to about lunchtime. Some scattered downpours scattered about in different areas. And then we get into 3 p.m., 4 p.m., it's just scattered everywhere. We got some storms around Kansas City, storms trying to move into the southwestern area of the state, Joplin, storms up near Quincy, and then we get into 6 p.m. Some nasty storms begin to enter, I think, western Missouri tomorrow evening. Could have a lot of heavy rain to the southern sections of the state, and then we get to a 9 p.m., and look at this mess. There's so much going on in Missouri. Now, there's a chance that none of these storms are really, you know, all hazards type deals, but there's going to be a lot of storm activity in the state of Missouri late tomorrow evening. And then we start to get into 11 p.m. We start to get into midnight. If you hear any loud rumbling in the background, some dude's outside just revving his motorcycle just nonstop right now for whatever reason. But anyways, we get into midnight tomorrow night. A lot of heavy rain over the state of Missouri. I mean, just a big chunk of rain. It's going to be a rainy night after things begin to calm down. But as we're getting into Tuesday morning, like 5, 6 a.m., some more intense storms could enter the state. Kind of what I just talked about with Kansas could re-enter the state. So it is just a messy look in Missouri for tomorrow. This is Illinois. Could wake up to some heavy rain, some storm activity in southern areas of the state tomorrow morning. And then we start to get into mid-afternoon. Some storms could enter the western areas of the state. We take it to about late evening, 10 p.m. Still kind of the same look. And then we start to get into after midnight, and a whole chunk of heavy rain and embedded storm activity begins to take over most of the state of Illinois, especially the southern areas of the state. So if you like a rainy night, low rumbles of thunder, I love to be woken up by that. And of course, you don't want to get Of course, you do not want to get woken up by a really bad storm. Man, I cannot talk, but you get what I'm saying. Nice heavy rain overnight with some rumbles of thunder. Well, won't hurt anybody here. But up here in Nebraska, starting tomorrow morning, could have some leftover storms from the overnight convection. these could just kind of drift around forever. I mean, they literally start in this area at around 8 a.m. and take 8 hours to move into the eastern areas of the state. But this is a weird look. This is some weird looking storms, not going to lie, that the HRRR model's popping off here. This is 4 p.m., 5 p.m., and there could be some tornadoes, I'm telling you, in far eastern Nebraska tomorrow evening. This is around 6 p.m. Your kinematics are going to be very good up here. Wind energy needed for tornadoes. So Lincoln to Omaha up to Sioux City, you know, maybe your severe weather threat isn't as high end as to your neighbors to the south, but I do think there'll be a kind of a secondary higher end threat of tornadoes in this area. So be careful. And these storms could eventually drift into Iowa. By the time we get into midnight tomorrow night, things will calm down though for Nebraska. And speaking of Iowa, tomorrow morning, just some scattered downpours. Could have kind of a sling of rain, embedded storms that gets thrown into the central areas of the state for tomorrow afternoon. This could produce some heavy rainfall. And we have to just watch the far western and southwestern areas of the state for tornado-producing supercells. And these could produce large hail and damaging winds also. But, you know, Omaha, over to Fort Dodge, down to Creston, Denison, you guys could see some intense storms tomorrow evening into the overnight hours. And I do think eventually all this evolves into just some heavy rainfall as the lower pressure moves overhead. Now, I will show some love to Tennessee and Kentucky here. I think we're going to have a round of strong to severe storms. It's already going to be moving in around mid-morning into western Kentucky. This will get down to Clarksville, Nashville. So don't let this take you by surprise, Nashville. Late morning, midday tomorrow, you could get blasted by a line of severe storms. Damaging winds, large hail is the biggest threat, but I think that some of these storms could produce a few tornado warnings. It's around 1 p.m. Storms are starting to move into the Cumberland Plateau. Then they start to get into the Tennessee Valley, north of Chattanooga. I know it doesn't show these storms hitting Chattanooga, but you could very well be getting hit by these. Knoxville, be on high alert of these. By the time you get into mid-late afternoon, these storms are starting to move, say, into southwestern North Carolina, Asheville. Could see them, and then we'll flip this down into South Carolina and Georgia. Just be careful in the Greenville-Spartanburg area tomorrow afternoon. This is 5 p.m. This is 6 p.m. This is 7 p.m. This is 8 p.m. And I do think this energy will begin to fade away once it gets further east in South Carolina for tomorrow. But that's all I got, guys. I was able to do that video in less than 20 minutes somehow, but just not going to get deep into the ingredients or anything like that for tonight's video. Just going to leave it at that. I know a lot of people are probably tuning into the people going live anyway. So, but I hope you guys been liking the shorts I've been making, those YouTube shorts. I've been experimenting with those lately, and basically I've been trying to do different methods of videos, and what I pretty much have been posting on TikTok, I've been just posting on YouTube shorts also, and it's, you know, been pretty cool. I've been liking doing it, so I hope you guys are enjoying it. It's just a shorter version of what I talk about. Yeah, give me some feedback on that. Hope you like it. Thank y'all for all the support. It's been very busy over the last several days, but, you know, I've had a little uptick in growth, and do hope that these videos are certainly helping you guys out as far as figuring out a timing. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful ending to your weekend, and stay safe out there.